Hi, everybody. Coleen Carberry here from Advanced Medical Integration. I know that in the last week or so, you've been signing in to hear many speakers that Advanced Medical Integration has brought to the profession at large, basically, of all different topics. And I know last week I had presented with Lisa Majeski from Gold Star Billing data on telemedicine. I'm back here today because I wanted to cover a topic that I know our coaching team has asked, that clients have asked from us, from the AMI team, but I'm sure as a profession at large and everybody out there with a practice is asking the same types of questions. And that topic line is more along the lines of day to day, what are practices doing to survive? Just like real data on what practices are doing. And that's what I'm here today to talk to you about. And I do have some guests that were going to be joining us in a little bit. That is Chilyn Whitmire and Bristy Richardson from our practice in Chattanooga. And in a bit, I will introduce them. But first, I wanted to commend you all that are still in business today. I know I hear from our clients and from a lot of people in the profession that in various states, there's enormous challenges that have to be overcome. You know, states like New York, where they literally can't practice, to states in like North Dakota that the practices are open and doing okay and actually still growing. So there's a whole spectrum of where practices are at. And so what I wanted to speak to you first about was commending you all who are still in practice or have converted on over to telemedicine to be able to continue to serve their communities. I know it is a fight for survival every day. I know that because, as you all know, my husband, Dr. Mike Carberry, and I have a practice in Chattanooga, and we're in the trenches just like you. So I want to commend you all who are here today listening for still fighting every day to keep your practice going. I wanted to talk just a little bit about, before I bring Chilyn and Bristy on, about the concept of getting data. As anybody who knows me knows, I love certain authors. And one author I just want to speak to is Napoleon Hill. If anybody knows any of Napoleon Hill's literature or stuff or reads his stuff, they know how he talks about how there's two ways that people can get information. Okay, the first way is practical experience. Okay, you might touch a hot pot and then realize after you burn your hand that the next time you're going to use a hot mitt. So that's practical experience. The other way is learning from other people's practical experience. That's the second way of getting data. And it's been shown that one can actually grow and learn much faster if you combine both types of data. Now, where we're at this moment of time in practice, I can tell you this: we don't have the luxury of time to learn practically ourselves, to try things ourselves and learn from our own mistakes. There's no time for that in this moment of time. We have to learn from each other. That is the quickest way for us to bring data, actionable data, to our practices and to each other. That's part of the reason why AMI is doing what we're doing with these platforms. Is as things are changing so fast, we're trying to bring relevant data that applies right now in this moment of time that you can use, whether it's data on information clinically or it's practical billing data. We're bringing you data from other people who are doing it just like you, so you can learn from their experience, just like you have your own experience. So that data from Napoleon Hill, I take it and say, this is exactly what we're doing right now. So I want to just speak one moment then to another author that I just love, and that's John Maxwell. John Maxwell, if anybody knows John Maxwell is he is a consultant, and he teaches people leadership, basically. He has a whole company that teaches leadership, but he's got amazing books on leadership. And he's, of recent, been putting out a lot of relevant data on leading during crisis, leading during fearful times. And I was doing some of his reading over the past weekend, and he actually labeled 4 points of a successful leader leading during crisis. And I want to actually kind of give you those 4 points before we move on to giving you real practical data that you can use. So coming from John Maxwell, he talks about leading during frightening times, basically, is what he says. And he has 4 attributes for a leader during these times. The first attribute he speaks about is being a visible leader. So this is a leader that actually is in the office every day, visible to their employees. If you can't be in your office every day, you're visible to your employees over Zoom. You could be visible to your employees on the phone through texting, but you're a visible leader Okay, that's attribute number one of a leader during frightening times or fearful times. The second attribute is acknowledging the fear that's in the environment, but not empowering the fear. So it's a fearful environment. There's no question about it. It's a fearful environment. To pretend like it's not is not okay. So a real leader will acknowledge the fear that an employee has, the fear that a patient might have. Okay, they will acknowledge the fear, but they will not talk about it over and over and speak about the news and everything they've heard. They're not going to empower that fear to grow bigger. They're going to truly acknowledge it, and then they're going to move on to the next item that John Maxwell speaks about, and that is painting a brighter picture. So you acknowledge that fear, and then you paint the brighter picture of what you're going to do to be able to combat that fear. So that's that third step of a leader, is actually painting that brighter picture. And then he goes on to say a leader who can lead during frightening times is cautious with predictions, okay, but generous with hope. Meaning that when I bring the Chilyn and Bristy on, who are actually the ones show up every single day in our Chattanooga office, these two are the leaders that talk to the patients every day. They talk to the staff every day. They're the ones, the boots on the ground, that are actually leading this charge in our office. It is not Mike and I, okay? They talk to Mike and I every day, but they're the ones on the front lines implementing everything and making the decisions. They're the ones who, when an employee comes forward, maybe has something fearful to talk about, they're the ones who have to acknowledge the fear, not empower that fear with that employee. Have to paint the brighter future of what they're doing right now, how it's hopeful. And they're the ones that have to actually predict what tomorrow could bring. So they're cautious with their predictions, but they're very generous with hope on how 6, 8, 10 weeks from now, how the picture can be brighter and hopeful with what they're doing today. So I don't ever want to take away from what these two are doing, because I can sit in Oregon and Mike can sit in Oregon and we can come up with these great ideas, but they're the crew that has to carry the ideas out. So what I want to be able to do is I want to actually be able to bring them on. I want to ask them some questions, and I want to let them tell you, our audience, what they do. They're in the trenches of what they're doing, how they're handling things, and what they've created. They've actually created 3 phases to roll out during this crisis, that when a phase triggers, they trigger into that phase of what they're doing. They've got 3 phases. They are in the middle of phase 2 right now, because obviously we implemented phase 1 a couple of weeks back with all the restrictions that came down, the stay-at-home acts that are now coming out. They've implemented phase 2. Again, I didn't write this up. This is something Chilyn leads the office. She's our executive director. Bristy is right alongside her. She's the office manager. These two together are enacting these phases, basically. So with much ado, I'm going to bring them on, and let's bring Chilyn Whitmire and Bristy Richardson on, and let's hear from them what they're doing. Hi, everybody. We have with us today Chilyn Whitmire. Chilyn, say hello. Say no.
Hello.
Wonderful. And Bristy Richardson.
Hello.
Chilyn and Bristy are from our office, Apple Medical Center in Chattanooga, and they're here with us because I wanted you to actually hear from them what they're doing day to day, their actionable steps that they're taking to actually hold our community and our group together in Chattanooga. So basically, Chilyn, Bristy, what I wanted to actually was dial back to when we were all in Lake Tahoe together for the mastermind for the AMI clients. First of all, I have to say the hotel was completely amazing and over the top. And the snowstorm definitely was amazing to have when we were in Lake Tahoe. But besides that, we were in Lake Tahoe. It was a 3-day mastermind for our AMI mastermind clients. There was probably like 50 of us there. And that's when I believe that Saturday, we got word, I think Donald Trump came out and issued the stay-at-home order that I think Monday, it was going to go into effect Monday at midnight, something like that. And we were there with all of our clients. I know that both of you were there. I know that Dr. DePaul was there also, and Chilyn, your husband Taylor, was there. And immediately you guys went into action. Like, you didn't go into fear, you didn't panic. Your first thought was like, okay, fine, we're gonna work around this. So I want you guys to tell us how on that Saturday when we got the news, the idea that you generated and how you actually put this into action. And by Sunday, it was in action. Within 24 hours, you had action going on in Chattanooga. And you were sitting in Lake Tahoe wondering if you were even going to get out because of that massive snowstorm that was hitting. So go ahead, tell us.
So the first thing that we thought of is we have to get to our staff first thing after they've just heard this and make sure they remember what we are. We are not a sick care facility, we're a well care facility. And it's important that they understand that, because if they start getting scared and worried about coming into work, then how are we supposed to get patients to realize that it's still okay to come out, because the goal is to stay healthy. So we actually, right after we heard about that, we had lunch and we put on a Zoom call basically with our key players to get them to go ahead and come into the office first thing the next morning. The next day was going to be Sunday.
Yep.
And
how many people on a Saturday did you motivate on a Zoom call?
There were five. There were
actually 6.
5, not counting us, correct?
Okay, yes, 5.
Yeah,
5.
7 total.
And what type of staff did you motivate? I mean, what type of staff got on that call?
So we had case managers, we had nurse practitioner, we had people from our marketing team, we had medical assistants, we had Haley, our production manager, a variety of everybody. But I think we were most excited to see our nurse practitioner there, because I feel like it was important for the patients to hear from someone on the medical team, and she didn't even phase her to come in on a Sunday, and she was making calls.
She was
calls to patients.
Wow. Okay, so tell me what was the plan you enacted, and what did they do on Sunday?
So they came in. We first of all reached out to all of our active patients. We put together a little script just reminding people that we were a well care facility and not a sick care, and it's been proven that exercise and chiropractic care absolutely helps boost your immune system, and that's exactly what you need to be doing at this time. But we want to take it a step further and offer you a free B12 injection, and on top of that, go ahead and bring in any friend or family member that you feel needs to boost their immune system. And we want them to come in with you. That way we can try to keep you guys as healthy as possible during the season. So they sent out text messages to all of our active patients, and then they began calling just to let them know we were still going to be here, and we were going to be with them through the season.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I think the takeaway I take from that is that, many times, whether it's in business, I don't care what it is, business or life, a person can get an idea, right? And then a lot of stuff happens around before they ever move to action and make the idea, they move into action. I talk about this all the time with clients. I'll say, hey, you get up on a Saturday morning and you're going to clean the garage after a cup of coffee. And then you get a cup of coffee. And then you read the paper and you realize, oh, there's a sale on this thing in here. Oh, I got to go shopping online. And all of a sudden it's 1 p.m. and you've not started cleaning the garage. And somebody says, I don't have time. There's no time to clean the garage. And that person doesn't realize that when they decide to do something, it's all that stuff they stuff in between before the action starts. And so for me, the takeaway from this is during this whole crisis, which literally is changing like that, you have to decide and insert nothing in between. It can't have, I need to research, I need to think about, I need to talk to 15 people, I need to, because what will happen is 2 days later, your business is dropped. So what I take away is announcement, decision, action, and boom, the calls were made. Which to me, the lesson of this is this whole coronavirus with everything happening, that's the frame of mind you have to have. Okay, bad news, not good news, idea, action. You just act. You don't insert a lot of stuff. And that's kind of what I get from you guys is you don't insert a lot of in-between stuff. It's kind of like decision and make it happen. So thank you for that story. That was the beginning of the crisis, obviously. We are very progressed in now, lots of announcements. I know that the CARE Stimulus Act was passed on Friday, which is more data. But I want to ask you guys a question. It's a little bit more global. And so I'm actually going to read the question off because I wanted to make sure I got it right. I want the two of you to tell me the overall viewpoint that the two of you have to fight each day and keep the practice open and keep the group that you've created surviving. Like, what's your just overall viewpoint? What drives you each day to keep fighting?
Yeah, so, overall, like, our overall viewpoint, I guess I would just say, like, failure is just really not an option. It's not the direction that we're going in at all. We're pretty stubborn, so we're not going to be okay with, you know, just closing our doors automatically because of all of the fear. So like you're talking about putting things into action, there's no time for delay. We've been here for a really long time, and we've worked really hard to build these, you know, build the culture and the environment that we have, and to implement, you know, our core values, and have the team that we have. And so to allow something that is temporary to just destroy that is just, it was not an option for us.
Right. And I want to say too, we've worked so hard to build our name in the community, and we are so known in the community, to give up that easily really says something about us, and that's not what I want at all.
Yeah, yeah. That's an incredible viewpoint. That is an incredible viewpoint.
Yeah. There's just, I mean, there's a lot of people depending on us. Like, of course, like we have things that we want to accomplish, but outside of that, like our staff relies on us, our patients rely on us, our community, etc. You know, so there's a lot of people depending on us. So if we just take the easy route out,
yeah,
we can't help anybody.
Absolutely, yeah. And I do know that there are a few states, you know, like New York, for instance. I think New York and New Jersey, those practices there don't have an option. Okay, so they have to shut their doors. I get it. Now, it doesn't mean they can't do telemedicine. Telemedicine is open to these guys. I know there's certain states that the states, there's just not many cases in the states. So the states are allowing people to move around a little bit more and the practices to be open. Then you've got those middle states that there's ambiguous information coming down from the medical boards. Like the state will make a statement, and then the medical boards interpret it, and the chiropractic boards interpret it. And this is where, if you ask me, this is where the strong leaders rise, because I've watched clients. We have clients, for instance, in the state of Texas, which the medical board is saying things, the chiropractic board is saying things. We have clients in Texas who immediately got on the phone with their attorney and said, tell me my ground. Where can I go here? And the attorneys made the statement, and they said, my doors are open. And these guys, their doors are open in Texas because they feel like they're on solid ground, just like you guys. They're not giving in because a board interprets something from the governor. We have other guys in the state that just basically, it shook their boots. They're so fearful that they're going to get in trouble, they shut their doors. So see, this is where, you know, and this is not like a, I don't want to say it's a make wrong to one who close their doors or open their doors, but this is the challenge you're speaking to right here. It's the frame of mind you look at every day, which we could probably all agree, every day it's a new fire. It's a new release. It's a new statement. It's a new this, or it's a new that we have to look at every day. And that viewpoint of you guys, which is surrender is not an option, by literally not even allowing that on the table, it forces us to create a solution, to come up with something, basically. That's what I get from you guys. Is that true? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. All right, good. So let me ask you the next question. Okay, so tell me your thought process on the following. And that would be the effort it would take to close the practice and have all the staff at home, okay? And either that or having to lay all the staff off, one or the other, versus fighting every day to keep the group cohesive and the business functioning at some level, whether it's 20% of the patients in the office and then telemedicine, whether it's all telemedicine. But the difference between closing down, allowing the community to see that we're shut, versus fighting every day to keep some cohesive group together. Tell me your viewpoint on 8 weeks from now or 10 weeks from now, when you're standing there, which one would be easier 10 weeks from now to have?
Well, I mean, definitely fighting for what we have built is hard. You know, I'm not going to lie. Every day is a challenge. Every day is hard. There's new things coming out that we have to address. So again, it just kind of goes back to what I've talked about before, like taking the easy route out is not always the best option. So we could close our doors or cut our patient volume down significantly. But it just comes back down to like starting at ground zero, like starting completely over with minimal staff and minimal patients is much harder than the daily struggle that we're going through.
Oh, absolutely. And on top of that, it would be very hard to just shut our doors right now. We still have so many of our patients coming in because they are relying on us to try to stay healthy. And on top of that, all of the new patients that continue to flood in, there's so many patients that are just not fazed by this, and they are trying to keep on living and stay healthy. And if we took that away from them, like, that would be so hard. That would absolutely, I think, ruin our image at this point. Yeah. And on top of that, again, the culture and the staff that we've worked so hard to create.
Yeah.
We've been here 7-8 years now.
Longer. A little bit longer.
We have seen the struggle of getting a staff that truly is passionate about changing healthcare, and we have it. And oh my gosh, to have to lose that, I'm gonna fight somebody.
Well, I realize is that the two of you have been with us for so long, you've seen practices open. You know what it means to open a practice with not one patient, 0 patients, and drag it up off the ground and get it living, basically. Mm-hmm. So I actually realize you guys can speak from experience, having done it, that it's easier to at least have something that's half alive and bring them back to life than something that has been completely shut down and not living and try and bring it to life. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I want to talk about the phases program that the two of you, I don't know, Chilyn, if you spearheaded putting together, I don't know if I actually don't know how you did it. And again, this speaks as a testament to these two, because I know that I speak with you guys daily. I know Mike speaks with you guys every couple days. First, I have to commend the two of you for putting up with the emotional roller coaster with the announcements that come out either from the states or the federal government. I know that as leaders, our job is to be leaders for you guys. You guys are to be leaders for staff. But the 4 of us sometimes get on the phone, and all of us have a different opinion on how to create beyond a barrier. And sometimes those conversations get pretty heated back and forth. And, I have to say, you guys put up with it. You guys listen to every viewpoint on it, right? And then we figure out a solution, and it doesn't even faze you. It's like right off your back. Right out there you go. Positive attitude in front of that staff. I got to commend you guys for that. Personally, putting up with Mike and I, but for that, exactly. So tell me, you put together this program. We had lots of conversations. I didn't put this together. You guys did. And understand, for the audience who's listening, there's going to be a link for you guys to be able to see this phase program that they implemented. So I asked the two of you to print this out so you had it in front of you. I don't want to labor every point of this, but I want you to go down and at least read the point and maybe speak to each point. Some points you might want to speak to a little bit more because they might be a little bit more comprehensive. Other points you might just want to list. So go ahead. We broke ourselves into 3 phases. Phase 1 implemented when we came out of Lake Tahoe, out of the mastermind. That was phase 1 we implemented. I know that. I know in the last week or so, I want to say maybe you're in phase 2. That much I know, because I see the stuff that you've implemented. So one of you take the lead on this. Tell us in phase 1 everything you did, because I think most of our clients and most of the world would say they want to know what are the steps that one would need to take, or the actions in an office that need to be done.
Okay. Was evaluating budget for practice, cut back all non-essential expenditures, office supplies, medical supplies, new hires. If on paper, if you're doing paper charts, pulling out the old chart tabs and recycling those, so we didn't order those.
In other words, we have charts that have medical charts that have tabs that say, like, whatever they say, rehab or whatever it is. And so you're saying that you went in, instead of placing orders for this, you went into retired charts and pulled the tabs out because non-essential spending was office supplies. Right. So basically you recycled some of the stuff, right? Okay, good. And tell me about that paper. You said that paper pads that you just mentioned.
Ordering Post-its, because our staff likes to go through Post-its. I mean, they post it everywhere. We actually took our scrap paper, cut it up, and made little pads of paper for them on their desk. So if they've got a note or something that comes to their mind, whatever they've got to jot down, they jot down on that scrap paper. Our billing department uses recycled paper to print out their aging reports, etc. And another thing that we've done at this point is we have several employees that have come up on their annual reviews that we've asked them to push those back until about 4 weeks from now and let things calm down. The next thing that's been really, really important for us is maintaining our essential expenditures. So this is any of our staff training. Like, for example, Cardo University. This is so big for us in our office. Not only in maintaining our culture, especially during a difficult time, and helping them remain positive. But our biggest thing that we're trying to do right now is to, you know, get as many new patients in the door and keep our existing patients here. And so the Cardone University has been such a huge help, because there's a lot of people that we're just straight cold calling, and leads that, you know, we've come in contact with in the years, offering all of our own solutions to them to keep new patients constantly flowing into the office. We need Cardone University. We need that drilling every day. We need the role playing. We need Grant in our face right now. So that is 100%. And
Yeah.
So in that bullet point was maintain essential expenditures. So not just Cardone University, but that is huge. So obviously continue to do that. It keeps your head right. But also things like, you know, your marketing. I've talked to a lot of people who have just shut off their marketing, and without new patients coming in, like you're not going to have anything else floating down the rest of your org board. So you definitely need to continue to do your marketing. You know, don't cut off any of the lines that are helping the business survive. So marketing, staff motivation, training, etc., all of that is necessities.
Okay. And I know for our clients, I know that I'm speaking to the broad profession at this point. Some are AMI clients. Okay. I know AMI is doing some pretty amazing programs right now, and I'll just speak to that. We have our existing clients right now that are being coached. We've actually brought new coaches live to be able to service our clients sometimes 2 to 3 times a week, be on the phone with our clients. We have our daily, which is what we're doing right now, to bring relevant data to our clients. And so our clients, I know for us, our clients are holding, meaning they understand the value of paying AMI to be able to deliver services to them is super important. So I think what you're basically saying, like with Cardone U, is if you're paying for a service that's helping you to stay open, right? That's a valuable service to continue to pay for, basically, right? And then the marketing, Chilyn, I do actually find that pretty interesting that you said that, because I hear that a lot about guys. Their first inkling is shut the marketing off. It's my biggest expenditure, right? It's either fire the staff, right? Because payroll is the biggest expenditure. Well, they don't want to do that. So then the next thing they roll to is then shut the marketing down. But you brought that a good point up, Chilyn, that at times like this, you almost want to market twice as much. Okay. However, and I'm not sure if you're going to get to this, but you can't market the same old way. Like you can't market, you have back pain, come in, we'll treat your back pain. Like the marketing has to be relevant for the times. So tell us what you did to make it, obviously you're talking about you're keeping the marketing out there, but what did you do to change it?
Yeah, so you know, that is one of the bullet points listed for any of the clients that are going to be taking a look at this. So we did revamp our marketing so it is relevant to what is happening. So we started to promote like anything in regards to our wellness programs or offers that we're currently putting out there for any new patients. So we created ads. It took a few days for those to, you know, get created and get approved. And then within a few days, like as soon as they went live, we had leads coming through. We actually have a higher response than we've ever had with any of our campaigns. So that's why when I said don't shut off your marketing, because it's helping the business survive.
You know, I will say this to kind of speak to that. You know, when you have about 6 months ago when the crisis wasn't around, and you asked if you actually surveyed the public, for instance, and you said you surveyed 100 people in the public and said, what is your biggest health concern? You'd have a whole array of things. You'd have, I wish my diabetes was handled. I wish my heart problem was handled. I wish my gout was handled. My back pain was handled. You get a whole array. Now, if you interviewed 100 people, 99 out of 100 of them would say, I want to do whatever it takes that I don't get this illness. So you have an audience right now that, like you said, you market to what they want, which is a solution to stay well. And I think I was talking to Genevieve, and I think you guys got 70 leads in 3 days from that wellness marketing.
We did. We did.
Yeah, incredible. See, so it's important you pull your marketing down that is not relevant to what's going on, and you put it back up relevant to what's going on and have the programs to deliver.
I want to add something to that too real quick. just because you're marketing this wellness doesn't mean that they're not going to come in and become a physical medicine patient. I mean, you can absolutely flip them into physical medicine. They're going to have other needs. But like you said, you have to speak to what they're most concerned about right now. And once you gain that trust and see that they see that you can help them, then, you know, you open game there. Talk to them about their other issues. We've absolutely been doing that and flipping patients back onto the rehab floor during this time.
Right.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, Bristy is the head of our case management department. So she's overall our case managers, and she's been a case manager for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, a really long time. So she can speak to you from when a patient walks in the door, how to speak to them about all their health problems, not just staying well, but that handling their physical body and their pain will actually help their wellness, because a body in pain and under stress, their immune system is lowered. So once in, yes, you can speak to that. You're right.
So just one last thing on that. So just understand, like, what was working prior to COVID-19, like what was working then is not going to work now. Right. So if you don't make adjustments to what you're doing, then you're not going to have positive results.
Yeah.
So like, for example, one thing that we stopped doing that was pretty much the majority of how we were getting all of our patients is we were doing a lot of pamper events, live events, expos, etc. So we were doing a lot of those, and so we actually rescheduled all of those for a later date and had to quickly like revamp with what we were doing. So that's where this kind of came into play of what does the public want to hear? How can we reach them? There are more people on Facebook and so like Instagram, etc. now than there were before, because people are in their homes, they're not doing as much. So obviously that would be the first platform that we want to get in front of, because there's more people paying attention to that at this time.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny because you talk about Facebook. We've seen over the years that Facebook, has gotten very noisy, meaning there's so many people advertising on Facebook. There's so much noise that a lot of times your ads can't even be seen. But that knee-jerk reaction, which I told you about, which business owners do, is they shut their marketing off. They just literally shut their marketing off. Statistics show that Facebook is down 30 to 50% on ad spend, which means 30 to 50% of that noise is now gone. Okay, right. That's beneficial for two reasons for everybody. One, you're not competing with all these other ads for all these other things. Number two, your ad spend goes 30 to 50% further. So if you were spending $50 a day on ad spend to reach 5,000 people, that 50,000 now is going to reach 10,000 people. So this is, for the people still advertising, right? This is a windfall to get your message out there, because most of your competitors shut their advertising off, which means the public thinks they're closed. Literally, they literally will disappear in the background, and the person making the calls, doing the text, doing the advertising, this is not going to fall on deaf ears. 10 weeks from now, the public is going to remember who was on their Facebook advertising the whole time through the coronavirus and who survived. They're going to forget about those guys who disappeared. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was going to say is, you know, when all of this is over, when the dust settles and this is all over, who are people going to think about when their pain has increased because they have sat and done nothing about it? So when that time comes, who are they going to reach out to? So,
Yep. Good. All right, read down a little bit more on your phases on the list.
Okay. Let's see. So some other actions in phase 1.
Promoting cash services, increasing our cash sales, because again, different times. There's not as many people that are going to be reaching out to you right now for their physical pain, because in their minds, what they're being told is this is not essential care right now. So we had to speak them other ways. So we started creating different wellness options, different cash packages that we could do, even for patients that didn't feel comfortable leaving their homes. And I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit further. But different things that we could even ship things to people's house just to increase cash sales.
Good, perfect, good.
We also, when this first started, you know, it was literally like right after the event in Tahoe, we came back and we created a letter so we could formally address. Well, this was right before. Correction. It was right before the event. We created a letter that we were addressing to the public and our patients, and so we put a copy of the letter in our patients' charts. We put a copy on social media. We sent out emails, etc., so we could address the concerns, because at that time we were already getting patients to reach out to us with curiosity on what precautions we were taking. Are we still going to be open? There were lots of questions that were, being asked to our front desk. So it was time to go ahead and formally address the public.
Well, and I'm going to speak to that because I know we did that initially, but that one item is not something that's only in phase one, because the public every day is asking, and what are you doing now? And what are you doing now? And what are you doing now? So that goes through all phases, is a constant speaking to our community on what we're still doing and what we're additionally doing. I know you'll get it later in the list, but that's not just a phase one thing. It just ramps up and gets bigger and bigger as you go through each phase.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, there were, I believe you guys got a copy of the letter, but with that, like, our whole goal is to promote wellness, and promote that, I guess, calm the environment. Really, we were just trying to calm the environment, let people know like what steps that we were taking here, and that we are taking it seriously. We're not like shoving 10 people on one rehab mat and not taking any steps. So just addressing the concerns, letting staff know that we need to all be standard and on the same page with how we're talking about this, and what actions that they needed to start doing within their position, etc. So,
and I want to add to that, it's very important that, like she said, the staff be on the same page, because you never know at what time who's going to ask you what precautions you're taking, and you better be able to fire back the precautions that you're taking to make them feel safe, because all it takes is one person to not feel confident in that, and that could absolutely affect your ability to get new patients in.
Absolutely. You're right about that.
Or to lose patients, lose patients because we're not all acting uniform.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very good point on that.
So, all right, other things, I'll just roll down the list. Let's see, where were we? Another thing we took a look at was figuring out how we can maintain enough production and collections to support our overhead. So we actually calculated these numbers up from looking at a revised budget, and we were planning around that to ensure that we were able to produce enough.
Yeah, I know all of us have numbers. And I know that you guys got the budget of the overhead, but it probably is the very important point, which is how many patient visits and deliveries and what you're doing in the office is going to actually bring in the income to support the overhead. Because being a business owner, you don't want to make the decision that you have to change something in the business when the bank account's in a negative. Like, that is not the time to be thinking, should I change something? So I know for you guys, you got handed the budget, you carved down everything non-essential. You saw what it would take to keep those doors open and pay the payroll without cutting any staff. And then you guys did the production. I didn't do that, and set, I don't know which one, I guess Chilyn, you probably did it, right? You set benchmarks for every department, right? Number of new patients, number of closes, number of deliveries, because without those things, it could not support that budget.
Right.
Correct?
Correct. Yeah, that is what we did. We took a look at like what would be like the minimum, like for each category, each division, what would be the minimum expectations in order for us to keep everything in phase one. So without having to, I guess, jump forward and have to lay staff off or close our doors, etc. So without jumping to the extreme, what were the minimum targets that needed to be met by each division? So
explain to me division, because some people might not understand what that means. What is what is the category of people?
Okay, so what we did is we took a list of our entire staff, and I mean, everyone has like a job to do in the office, but with the volume slowly decreasing, there's more idle time. So what we did is we took a look at our entire list of staff members, and we paired them up with different divisions. And so by divisions, I mean there's like your sales team, who is responsible for all of your day ones, all of your day twos, any types of sales at this point, even if it's a wellness program. And then there's, we have people helping the insurance department. So that would be our division 3. We're going back in that division and rebilling, looking for any type of opportunity or income, looking at EOBs, aging reports, etc., trying to find any type of income that we can. And then there's division 4, and that is your treatment lines. And so we put specific people in that division to help reach out to previous graduates, or specific people to talk to our active patients about the wellness programs that we're offering, or any of our patients that have gone on hold, to reach out to them about the wellness program, etc. And then there's division 6, which is our PR and marketing department, and we have people helping out in that area as well. So basically what it is since we have more idle time, we've put people in different divisions. When their post is caught up, or when there is free time, they report to the other areas. And
So it sounds like you actually, you know how much it costs to run the office. You know that you need to bring that income in. You look at the staff you have and every area, and you know what each area needs to produce in order to bring that income in. Like, this is a basic business concept. You know that at times some staff will be idle. So you actually pre-planned all of this ahead of time with like number of new patients needed, number of closes, right? You pre-planned it ahead of time, but more importantly, you pre-planned staff movement into helping other areas ahead of time. So if staff, if Susie, for instance, in one area, finished up what she was doing, or there were patients there was no patients at that time, she knew to go back to the insurance department and pick up a task back there. So you weren't running around the whole time reacting to what was happening, right? Oh my gosh, you have nothing to do, let me take you here. You actually created a plan to be at cause, and from what I'm gathering, you just said, every staff member knew, this is my job and what I'm supposed to do, and if I can't produce it because there's no patients here, right, then I'm to move over here and do this thing. And so everybody went into action, basically.
yes.
Yep.
That's
brilliant. That's actually brilliant. Yeah. Wonderful.
With those, like, we got really creative with what we were doing. So it wasn't like you had a rehab tech going to your sales team and doing consultations. So just to clarify on that. So we just really got creative in follow-up and reaching out in every direction that we can reach out, whether it was sending out text messages or making phone calls or creating a newsletter and sending that out and making follow-up calls. So different staff were able to do things within their level of responsibility.
Okay, so that's what I remember you telling me this one, is that there's some staff members that they're not comfortable getting on the phone calling a patient to talk to them, but they're very good at texting, right? Yep. So you actually took their skill set and put them where they could shine or they could be productive, basically.
And then you have someone who is stronger, someone from the sales team, follow up on that text message. And then if they don't answer, then guess what? I send them a video message.
I heard you guys were doing video messaging, and I heard you had the nurse practitioner doing it also, right, Benzie?
Yeah. Yep.
That's fantastic. All right, good. Let's keep going on down your list, because I know that we have so much time here. I want to make sure we get through everything.
Absolutely. Okay. The next thing, and this was the most important thing too, to I think help make our staff feel more safe, is we started screening our patients and the staff at the front desk before they walk back. The first thing that happens is they get their temperature, and this is phase 1. So initially we just started with temperatures, and that did. I think that put a lot of people at ease, knowing that they weren't having any symptoms, and we were trying to stop anybody that was ill from coming into the clinic. Because again, we don't typically see sick people. If they're sick, they don't know about that. We see well patients that are here for physical medicine.
Yeah.
Another thing that we did, that we actually started in Lake Tahoe, as soon as we got that announcement, I think Chilyn sat there at one of the tables and we made a list of all the things that we needed to stock up on inventory, because we knew it was about to get really crazy as far as what you could get your hands on. So we went ahead and called Abby, who is in our billing department and does our inventory, and we told her all the things we needed to go ahead and order right now, like she was at her house on Saturday placing this big massive order so that we could get it. And we did that because we knew, again, things were going to start to slow down as far as how fast it, usually we get things within a day to 2 days. And we knew that could take up to a week, 2 weeks to get things. We went ahead and planned for the next month and got as much as we could.
Yeah, especially since like we expected the possibility of the mail delivery decreasing or slowing down.
Yeah, Chilyn, you know, I do remember you saying that you guys put a big order in for B12 because you were delivering that B12 program, right?
Yes. So we did place a big order for B12. We are offering that to our staff for free. And we're also offering that to any of our new patients who come in for a free consultation, and also active patients as they arrive for their visits each week. So they're getting one a week, not every visit, obviously.
Great. Wonderful. Good. Okay, good. All right. Give us some more ideas that you're doing.
So our sanitation, so we started making sure, which we did this before us being a medical office, but making sure that the staff was cleaning after every patient, but that it was visible to the patients, that they were actually seeing every step we took to clean, to make them again feel safe, and also makes the staff feel safe. And we made sure that we had enough water bottles back there full of our alcohol that we clean with, and just reminded patients, just like at a gym, everything you touch after you're done with it, spray it, clean it, and then we would still go behind them and do it. So you've got this double action here. So I think that really helped. Also, we started to educate the staff on all the new wellness programs, because we were doing a lot of thinking and creating with you behind the scenes, but we had a staff that needed to know exactly what was going on, because again, they're our walking advertisement as well. You know, we can't always be everywhere, so we need to make sure that they're on the same page. So making sure they knew about all the programs that we were about to bring on. Again, really promoting that we were a well care facility, and it's our job to keep our community as healthy as possible, and they have to know about these options that we have.
So with that, we created posts for social media. We created flyers to post through our office. We created these mini flyers to put in patients' charts. And then we created tear sheets as well. That way we can have those stocked in the medical rooms.
What's a tear sheet? What's a tear sheet?
A tear sheet for our nutritional supplements.
Okay.
It basically is talking about each supplement that we're offering, and it has the information about, you know, what it is and what the dosage is. And I can't remember what else.
I understand. Okay, so it's an explanation sheet for patients.
Yes.
It's very, very helpful, because you can talk about something all day long, but so many patients are visual, like they need to see it to be able to digest it, and it's been very, very helpful.
Okay, good.
So
good.
But those were all of the steps for phase 1 that we put in place.
And they're all obviously all of that, you implemented all of that. That was done. Yeah. I understand that you are all now into phase 2. So let's head into phase 2. Go on through that list. Again, it expands on phase 1, but go on into that list.
So again, entering into phase 2, keeping everything in, that we were doing with phase 1, we are constantly encouraging our staff to promote the wellness program. Again, everyone has to be consistent with that and on the same page. So if there's any changes, we have a quick staff meeting to let everybody know anything that's changed with the program. And again, there's so many people helping in different divisions, so making sure everyone understands the offer, because you never know when a patient's going to ask you a question, and you don't want to kill the time and say, oh, well, let me go find someone that can help you with that. I'd much rather someone be able to say, oh, well, this is what we have, and blah, 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 whatever it is, so that if a patient's interested, they get the data they need right away. Also, we did increase our patient screenings because we did get new data that, there are times where patients may have some other symptoms starting, or they may not necessarily have a fever right away, but there could be other symptoms. So to make patients feel better and to make our staff feel better, we started asking questions like, for example, have they had a cough, a shortness of breath, fever, exposed to another person who has had a definite diagnosis of any illness, and just to make sure. And we started keeping a log of that as well, writing down staff's temperatures, writing down patients' temperatures, anybody that had symptoms, and of course, if they had any of these symptoms, they got sent home.
Okay, got it. Okay, good. Wonderful.
And that was that. Those are basically things that we were doing in addition to what we were doing in phase one of checking the temperatures. Right.
Got it. Okay, good.
Okay, next thing. Let's see. All staff given nutritional supplements that the office is offering to the public at no charge. So we let, if any of the staff willingly wanted to take any of the supplements to boost their own immune system, we did let them take advantage of that.
And we're using those biogenetics, the liposomals, right, for under the tongues. And Quicksilver is biocidin, right? So that's the bottles that they got. Okay, great. Yeah, and it is really important that just like in the hospital systems, you guys are right there with the patients, right? So your immune systems need to be supported as such. So if the office can support you guys by giving you these, we do. And I understand some of the staff even got the IV Meyer cocktail drips, right? So I understand some of the staff opted for that also, which is fantastic. Yeah, whatever we can do to support our staff to maintain their immune systems, right, is super important because they're right on the lines, right in the front lines. And they're the ones telling patients to build their immune systems. It's kind of odd if they're not doing it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If they can, it's going to help them promote it as well. If they understand the nutrition and how it works with their body and what it can do for them, they're going to do a lot better promoting this to the community.
Absolutely. Yep. Good.
The next thing that we implemented was increasing our cleaning schedule. We actually put a program in place. We have our normal cleaning areas that every staff member is responsible for. We assigned sanitation areas, and every hour, like we have timers set, every hour we dart off and we have to sanitize our areas. So every inch of this office, every touching point, everything gets sanitized every hour. It's become a funny thing now. We hear the timer off and everybody like runs to get sanitized.
You get the spray bottles.
Yeah, and that is like in addition to what we're doing, what we're doing on the rehab floor and medical rooms, etc. So after each use of an item in rehab, they're sanitizing already, like immediately following, before and after at this point. But we have other areas too that we decided to implement. Like people are not automatically going to sanitize the doorknobs when you're exiting a bathroom, you know. So we added in those areas for the every hour rotation.
Okay, great.
And we also have a cleaning company, so every Sunday they come in and they do deep sanitation on top of what we're already doing. And it doesn't matter if they just were here Sunday night, the staff still comes in and sanitizes first thing. You can never be with that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Next thing, we did set a goal for our cash sales because we absolutely, knowing our physical medicine sales have decreased a bit. We needed to really boost up that sales program, the cash sales. So we did set targets, and it's my job to ensure that those are met. And that's where it's really helpful to any idle staff, pulling them into different divisions that they don't normally work in, because they can at least be blasting text messages out, giving the sales team people to follow up with and get more cash sales. Again, even if that means that they're not coming into the office, you know, we're getting as creative as possible to keep that cash sale target and to ensure that it's met.
Well, and you know, that takes us to the reason why when the phase 2 triggered for 2 reasons. One, the restrictions, the coronavirus got worse across the country, right? And so therefore the stay-at-home restrictions got more restrictive. Non-essential businesses were shut down. Restaurants were shut down in Chattanooga. Bars were shut down. Gyms were shut down. So that's what triggered phase 2. Okay. And with that came some of our 3-time-a-week patients are treating patients who've decided not to come in. So our numbers dropped. I know we talked a little bit before this, we got on. We've probably lost at this point about 40% of our patient base dropped. Now you have to understand, and I'm talking to our audience here, right? If we had 100 patients, it's not that we dropped down to 60. We probably dropped down to 30. It's just that you guys are continuing to bring new patients in and signing new patients into programs. So overall, the practice has probably dropped 40%, correct?
Right.
Okay, so with the 40% drop, we have to, now this is my business person saying, a 40% drop is a 40% drop of income. So that was the other trigger for phase 2. Phase 2 triggered with the greater closing of non-essential businesses and patients staying home, which triggered a drop in the potential income, which meant we now have we now have, we have to now face the fact that we're not going to be able to meet that overhead. So other things have to be done, right? Okay, so that's what triggered this. So let's go on. We'll kind of move on down because we're going to take about another 10 minutes to finish up. So let's clip on through now. Now we know why phase 2 triggered. So let's go through the other things that you did or are doing.
Okay, so other than that, let's see. We made some changes with what we were doing in regards to social distancing. So we have one lead rehab tech on the floor who runs control of what's already happening in rehab. So we have that person directing flow. So a couple of things that we did is we spaced our wobble chairs out into different areas so all of our patients were not in this very close line doing warm-ups together. We only have one patient doing the cervical traction at this time, or at a time. And we're only allowing 2 patients on a mat at a time. And we have
our mats are big, aren't they? Like 10 feet wide or something? I don't know what our mats are.
You know the
I don't know the exact measurement, but they're the largest mat table that you can get.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah. And I remember you guys saying you're not doing the 6-way strap because there's no way to sanitize those 6-way straps.
Right. Yeah. We would literally have to wash it after every single patient. We can't do that. So
Understood. Okay.
Yeah. So we also we have 2 adjusting tables right next to each other. We're only adjusting 1 patient at a time. But those are some of the changes that we've made in rehab.
You know, let me bring up this change you guys did is that we're open 5 days a week now, right? And so it's probably maybe a total of 45 hours the office is open, right? I've heard some clients say, I'm only opening 3 days a week. The difficulty that presents is compressing these people into a space and not being able to hold the social distancing. Mm-hmm. What we've opted to do is to leave our hours exactly the same, right? And as our staff, you know, we're able to, we've decreased some of our staff hours to begin with already. The group decreased, but we've kept them spread across these 45 or 50 open hours because that enables us to respect the social distancing. I mean, literally, that's why we opted to actually stay open, keep our staff somewhat employed, because we could bring people in and put them on the rehab tables and keep them far enough apart.
Yeah, so we tried to, like, our goal was to keep the same hours, and for the patients that were now out of work temporarily or working from home, we were able to move them on our schedule. So we were not having all of our patients come during one time frame between 5 and 7, which is what was the case before.
And the case managers are being very cautious of that at this point. They're making sure and they're checking our schedule before they schedule anybody at a specific time. They're making sure they're leaving enough space so we don't get too many people back there at once. Yeah.
And there's not so many people walking by each other in the hallways, but we're able to keep the social distancing. And that's how we did it, by keeping the hours actually open and spreading the staff across the hours. Okay, good.
Okay. All right, moving forward, let's see, the next thing in phase 2 that we did is we started to review our options for telemedicine, and we're making decisions on moving forward.
And just to kind of update that, we had, just to any of our listeners listening, we already pulled that trigger. We've done a telemedicine visit or 2 to make sure we can work the kinks out of it, and we're moving forward with that. You know, you do not need a telemedicine platform at this time. All the whole concept of you need a telemedicine platform, and I know our clients are being heavily marketed to by all kinds of companies that they have telemedicine platforms. But now up until I believe it's May 31st, the restrictions are loosened. So remember, thought, right? I'm going to do a program, and action. Okay. Onboarding a telemedicine program, I've talked to some companies and they say, oh yeah, we can do it like this. It's not as easy as you think. It's a new software that yeah, they can do it like that because they're used to their own software, right? When you bring a new software on to your staff, okay, they have to learn a whole new software. So the restrictions are loosened. You're allowed to now use FaceTime with, you know, making sure the patient is in a room with nobody else. Like there's certain things you make sure are in place, but there's no reason to bring on a telemedicine platform right now. You literally can decide you're going to deliver telemedicine and deliver telemedicine. It's basically that easy. So, and I know that AMI is bringing to our clients all the step-by-step data to be able to bring telemedicine on without a platform. So just contact AMI. We have all that data. So, but yeah, we've already decided we're bringing telemedicine on, and we're going to bring telemedicine on to be able to deliver DME also, because there's people in pain. So I don't want to, I know your step in phase 2 is to explore it. We've explored it as a group. We know our action steps right now. We've tried it on a couple people. We know it works. And so we're moving forward with it.
Yeah, so in phase 2, we began reviewing what it took, and we immediately started to take action. So in phase 2 is both steps to that. So yes, we did go ahead and start, we started first with offering the consultation and seeing our nurse practitioner for the wellness supplements. So we began that process there to test it out, to see what it was like and what type of feedback we got. And it went really well.
Yeah, it was very successful.
It was successful. We were able to sell products, and we're sending those directly to their homes. So we did that process.
Good.
Other than that, in phase 2, we did make a statement, an announcement to our staff that it is not mandatory for them to come to work. And what I mean by that is, if they're in fear, or if they don't want to be here, then that will show to the patients. It'll show through their work, and they're not going to perform on post, especially if they're helping out in other areas or tasks that generate patients or income. They're not going to be productive. They're not going to get a product. So if they don't want to be here, we want them to understand, like, we are not forcing them to be here, especially if, these are uncertain times for a lot of people, and we want them to feel comfortable with the decisions that they are making. So we made that clear to the staff.
Yeah. Now I know that at that office we have a very a really nice benefit package for our employees. So they're able to use their vacation time now, their paid time off. Just for our audience to know, we are heavily looking at the CARE Stimulus Act right now, because there are benefits out there for our employees, right? Whether it's the employees who, for whatever reason, need to be at home. They could have a child with no daycare and they have to be at home, like to help those types of employees out so they don't go through all their paid time off. It could be for just to be able to ensure that we're able to continue to pay our employees, right, all the way through this crisis. We don't have all the data on that, but we're heavily educating ourselves fast on it to see if there's any money that we can use to be able to keep, in order to pay the employees, basically. So I know that that's when in phase 2, when you initiated this, the CARE Stimulus Act hadn't even been passed yet, right? But it's now a factor that we can help out some of these employees, like you said, who just feel they need to be at home, that their personal own health history makes them feel they need to be home and not there. So yeah.
So the last thing that we have listed in phase 2 is each day we review our production, like as soon as possible in the morning, so we can review it. Did we meet expected targets for the previous day? And if we didn't, we regroup on what do we need today? Like, what can we accomplish today to get us back on track if we did not hit targets? And that way, by weekend, we're able to make sure that we're again supporting. We're pulling in enough production to support that overhead. So now
there is another thing in phase 2 that about the insurance department that I'm just going to speak to, because I know you did it already, but I'm going to speak to it towards our clients. The one thing about the production department of an office, when it's produced, the insurance department's job is to collect, obviously. And many times in the last year, right? Maybe you weren't paid correctly on a line item. Maybe you billed out 4 units of rehab, but you were only paid on 1, right? And a lot of this is small money all over the place, but it is money that can be reprocessed. And so what we have our insurance department doing is they've pulled an aging report, right? Which means they're going to go back and see any outstanding money that is older than 30 days old, and they're working old money. But probably even more important, where I know that at the time, like 6 months ago, the dollars might seem little, and they're on the list to do, and you don't always get to it timely. But if you actually read your EOBs, many times line items process wrong, right? And it's very labor intensive to get $20 here, $40 there. But I can tell you, if you go back and read your EOBs from the last 6 months, somebody is going line item by line item, and you go back and have those claims reprocessed correctly, I call that found money. Like right now, you guys are trying to maintain your payroll. You do not want to let people go. So yeah, your production team is very, very much looking to service patients with services that can produce. But that insurance department is finding money and reprocessing claims to correctly, because that's money that also can go into the budget. Because what you guys care about most is that there's enough money coming in the business to support the overhead, so we don't have to lay people off. That's essentially where we started this conversation off. So that insurance department is almost as important as the production department is in being able to bring money into the practice.
Absolutely, because you can produce all day long, but if the money's not there, none of this keeps going.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know our time is running short. I know that we're faced now with 3 different options, and I know you had written that down. I just want you to kind of in a nutshell say, like, what should something else occur? Like either one, we dramatically drop in patients again. Say the state of Tennessee says mandatory stay at home, every business has to close. Say something like that happens, right? I know that you have 3 options that we can pull the trigger on. So just give those 3 options of what would happen, because we have guys in states that can happen to. So give them the idea of what these 3 options could be.
Okay. So option 1, obviously, like we are educating ourselves with the care stimulus package. We need to know all the ins and outs of that. But other than that, in option 1, we created a list of employees and determined how payroll would be handled with the information from the care stimulus package.
So what you're saying basically is will the employees, will we continue to pay the employees and get money from the federal government to pay the employees? Will we lay employees off? And I'm not saying that's what we're doing. I'm saying this is an option that could be pulled, and any of our clients could see this as an option. Will we lay employees off because we simply can't support the payroll, and then the unemployment system will support the payroll? But that's option 1, is what do we do with the payroll? It's our biggest expense in the office. It's got to be a lot of our clients' biggest expense. So I hear option 1 is discussing options for this payroll.
Yes.
Okay.
That is option 1. Option 2 is a decision to adjust our business hours and have a greater level of telemedicine.
Okay.
And then option 3 is for us to maintain all of our actions that we've put in place with phase 1 and phase 2, and basically cut all of the staff's hours, like across the entire org board, cut all of the hours down to 35 hours versus the 40 that they were getting. And with that, bonuses are going to be cut, because our production, like with the way our bonus structure is, you have to have a certain target of production met in order for there to be bonuses. So with our production dropping, our volume dropping, 40% loss in our patients, the production isn't going to even be there for bonuses. So
the office will never hit the threshold where right. The staff will bonus, basically, which is not ideal. I totally get that. You guys are fighting every day to stay above that.
Right.
But if things change for the worse, it's going to drop below the threshold and nobody's going to be bonused at all, right? Is what you're saying is.
Right. So it's not ideal. It's not ideal for bonuses to not be there. But again, it just goes back to the beginning conversation of, it's either fight and struggle for this period of time, or start from ground zero, 6 weeks or however long from now, and be in a worse predicament. So, that is, I guess, more towards where we're leaning is, cut the hours. The bonuses won't be there, so your payrolls are pretty much in half. And then just reevaluating the budget at that time, reworking your numbers, the statistics, and what is needed to support the overhead after those changes have gone in place.
Okay, got it. All right, wonderful. Well, I know our time is about up, so I just want to I'm going to close here. We started off saying how, how leaders lead, right? And I talked a little bit about Napoleon Hill on how, personal experience is definitely a way to get knowledge. but probably the fastest way to get knowledge to be able to implement is other people's experience. So I thank the two of you guys for coming on, because you've given us a wealth of information, of experience of what you have done. It just helps our public out there to have ideas. We're going to put together, or we have put together this phase list that you guys created. So there'll be attachment to it. I can't promise you exactly where it's going to be, but it will be on that AMI Daily Health Alert site, that you can download this list to just give you things that they've created, because that's other people's knowledge that could help you. So I want to thank everybody who joined us, and Chilyn and Bristy, thank you so much. And like our clients, I commend you guys for fighting every single day to stick it out. Yeah, so thank you.
No problem. Hope it helps.
Okay, good. Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye.